Facebook Watch.
Voting during a pandemic, long lines and social distancing. The wild scenes playing out across Wisconsin after the governor's failed attempt to postpone the election. We take you inside a voting site where officials gear up with masks and protective gear. Could this be what's in store for all of us in November? While New York and New Jersey are reporting their deadliest days yet, hospitalizations in those states are down over the last 3 days. And we take another look at the heroic fight inside a New York City hospital. While COVID-19 does not discriminate, the fatality rate is far higher for one particular race in this country. One senator talks to us about another possible stimulus package in the works. And the latest on that Navy chief who lashed out against the former captain who was removed from his job.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Let's start this newscast off a little differently tonight with hope. We are certainly clinging to the bright spots during this seemingly relentless pandemic. In New York, hospitalizations fell again today. Governor Cuomo says the state may be reaching a plateau. Sadly, this does come as New York reports a record 731 deaths in just 24 hours. Meanwhile, officials in other hot zones are urging the public to stay vigilant. The mayor of hard-hit Detroit says they may be bending the curve, but he is still calling on residents to stay at home. And as we've so painfully learned, coronavirus, it does not discriminate. The young, the old, the rich, the poor, everyone can get the virus. But who's dying from it is a bit of a different story. Some states are reporting disproportionately large numbers of African-American deaths. So Steve Osunsami, he leads us off with more on this disturbing trend that even the White House is now weighing in on.
From the moment the coronavirus outbreak began, health officials have preached that COVID-19 doesn't discriminate, that it's an equal opportunity killer. But new reports strongly suggest that race still matters. Look at Louisiana. Of the more than 500 people whose final breaths were stolen by this disease, the state says that more than 2/3 of them were black.
Disturbingly, this information is going to show you that slightly more than 70% of all the deaths in Louisiana are of African Americans. And so that deserves more attention, and we're going to have to dig into that and see what we can do to slow that trend down.
In Chicago, the numbers fall the same. Most of the people who've gotten sick or died are people of color. Nearly 70% of all COVID-19 deaths in the city are African American. The city says that's nearly 6 times more fatal than what's being seen by their white neighbors.
Those numbers take your breath away. They really do. This is a call to action moment for all of us. When we talk about equity and inclusion, they're not just nice notions. They are an imperative that we must embrace as a city.
On Chicago's West Side, Reverend Marshall Hatch says it's been a tough few weeks.
Well, we had actually 4 deaths last week, and one of them was my sister who passed on Saturday, my eldest sister.
In Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, where black Americans are just 26% of the population, they're more than 70% of the deaths from the coronavirus. The reports are startling in North Carolina, Connecticut, and Michigan, too.
Based on our preliminary data, we see that it appears to be impacting minority populations greater, with 33% of cases and 40% of deaths being in African Americans.
The NAACP held a virtual news conference sounding the alarm.
These are shocking numbers. This shows the lack of inequity. This exposes the structural deficits that we've all known about. But when you put an accelerant like a coronavirus in the midst, African Americans are desperately impacted.
Policy experts tell us they've seen this before.
We saw during H1N1 that Native Americans and Latinos were much more likely to be hospitalized and even to die from the virus. And we're seeing the same thing happen now with coronavirus in places like Chicago, where Black people are roughly 30% of the city's population, but 70% of all coronavirus-related fatalities.
There are few places in America that are keeping close track of how COVID-19 is impacting communities of color, and there are some familiar explanations for what's happening. Higher rates of diabetes, high blood pressure, and other conditions that make it more difficult for someone to fight off the new disease. The sister of Reverend Hatch in Chicago was 73 years old and suffered from asthma. Rhoda Jean played the organ at her brother's church. But there's also the concern that more black and brown Americans are people like Detroit bus driver Jason Hargrove, an essential worker who posted this video seen by millions on Facebook, complaining about a sick passenger who he felt should never have walked out of her home.
I feel violated. I feel violated for the folks that was on the bus when this happened.
He was a married father of 6, and he died of COVID-19 just 11 days later.
I can't blame nobody else. I got a job to do. I'm trying to be professional out here. I got a job to do.
There's something else that's happening. In the middle of what's becoming a nationwide economic pause, we're seeing reports of Black and Latino service providers who are taking calculated risks to keep working because the social distancing isn't paying their bills. Chicago's mayor even recorded this public service announcement saying that this isn't the time for manicures and haircuts.
Getting your roots done is not essential.
But when this photo was posted on social media showing the mayor here again standing with her hairstylist who wore gloves and a mask when she cut the mayor's hair, critics had a field day.
I'm the public face of this city. I'm on national media, and I'm out in the public eye. And, you know, I'm a person who, I take my personal hygiene very seriously. As I said, I felt like I needed to have a haircut.
Among American families of color, there's also a skepticism of public health authorities that dates back to the experiments that began in the 1930s in Tuskegee, Alabama, where black men who thought they were being treated for syphilis weren't. Ramel Peebles is a teacher in Brooklyn who says he doesn't trust the government with his health and at first thought COVID-19 was a hoax.
When it comes to the American government and the media, I never really trust what's being said or what's being projected. And I always feel like there is capitalistic intentions behind everything. So when I started to see that that the economy was being affected in seemingly a negative way, that's when I started to realize that, okay, maybe there is actually something going on.
There are new concerns among black men about wearing face masks in public, worried that even more people will assume that they're criminals. And this doctor at an urgent care in New York City says that when people of color do get sick, the medical facilities in black and brown neighborhoods are often unable to provide the type of care these patients need.
So we know that in black and brown communities that typically these hospitals that are called minority serving hospitals, and there have been studies that have shown this, tend to offer poor quality care. We also know that they may not have the resources to deal with very sick COVID-19 patients. So they may not have the specialists like intensive care unit physicians. They may not have the PPE or the ventilators to really adequately care for these patients. And then just even thinking about the vulnerability of these communities before this pandemic even happened, we were in a crisis already.
Adding insult to injury, it's harder for these families to weather the economic storm of COVID-19. Experts underline that black and Latino workers are overrepresented in the restaurant and hotel industries, for example, which are nearly entirely shut down.
I'm employee at the Intercontinental Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. My wife and I, we both work at the hotel.
Orestes Rodriguez is trying not to panic. His wife was laid off 3 weeks ago, and he's down to just a few days a week of work at a Los Angeles hotel.
We're trying to comply with all the regulations that the authorities have determined, and we're staying home. We're not going out, you know. And we hope that this thing get over as soon as possible.
In Orlando, Dorothy Michael is trying to make a little extra driving a ride share, but it's not working.
Lyft is not, going well right now. You want to Yes, and no, Lyft is not going very well at all. I've been home for going on my second week. I had to leave Lyft because of the coronavirus, because I didn't want to bring it into my grandkids, as well as I didn't want to be sick myself. It's real hard without the work.
Policy experts say that the racial wealth gap in this country explains both why people of color are more likely to get sick and why they have more to fear from the shutdowns. So what to do about this? It turns out that some of the suggestions help everyone. Putting a hold on evictions, for example. In Atlanta, the mayor put out this notice announcing available rent reductions at all public housing, and she's prepared to keep those reductions going into June. But health officials say that addressing the problem requires first seeing it. And there are calls for the federal government to start counting the impacts to people of color.
And Steve Osunsami joins us now from Atlanta outside the Centers for Disease Control. Steve, I think you just hit the nail on the head, right? People have to see it first and then say it first. And I think that this is really underlined with a bold marker existing health issues in African-American communities.
It is, and the president today is acknowledging some of these disparities, and his administration is now promising to help these communities as much as possible. But some of these issues are persistent issues: lower access to health care, living in places where the air and water might not be clean, living in places where it's hard to find affordable and fresh food. These are concerns that become greater in a crisis. And Lindsay, there's also the socioeconomic part of this. One thing I read today, most of the bus drivers in the city of Chicago are black. Most of the food service workers are Latino. Those populations are struggling hard in all of this.
The black and brown community is also on the front lines as well. And the bitter irony of this is that just a few weeks ago, there were these rampant myths floating around online that black people weren't even getting coronavirus.
Yeah, that was one of the things that was out there, the idea that our melanin would make us immune to the disease, but none of that, of course, is true, as we're seeing right now.
Steve Osunsami, thank you so much for that report. And earlier we mentioned the death toll in New York, more than 700 lives lost today as the city continues to grapple with this epidemic. But amid the carnage, there are signs of hope and a host of harrowing stories from the front lines. ABC News Live anchor Tom Yamas has more in this report.
Tonight, more evidence the battle against coronavirus is far from over. New York dealing with its highest single-day spike in deaths. 731 lives lost to COVID-19.
That's 731 people who we lost. Behind every one of those numbers is an individual, is a family, is a mother, is a father, is a sister, is a brother.
The city alone losing more than 4,000 people. That's more than perished in the World Trade Center attack. But tonight, the governor pointing to a sign of hope. The rates of hospitalizations are going down.
You see that plateauing, that's because of what we are doing. If we don't do what we are doing, that is a much different curve.
But inside hospitals, doctors and nurses are still suiting up for a war. Maimonides Hospital in Brooklyn taking us into their ICU.
Let's go.
We're right there as Dr. William Pascal is alerted there is a patient in desperate need of help. As Dr. Pascal rushes, warning alarms on medical equipment are going off. A nurse telling us what's happening. A patient is having extreme trouble breathing. They need to flip her onto her stomach.
And decrease help them secrete the mucus better.
This is the moment doctors face around the clock. Life or death in the hands of this medical team. Within minutes, Dr. Pascal comes out. They've stabilized the patient. He tells us what just happened.
What happened just now is an absolute emergency. It's a life or death situation. Unfortunately, that's what we're seeing with a lot of our patients here. It's, we run around this unit many times just putting out fires.
With hospitals still pushed to the brink, new spaces are still opening. The Naval Hospital ship, the Comfort, will be taking up to 500 COVID-19 patients. And now, the country's largest Gothic cathedral, St. John the Divine, to be converted during this Holy Week into a field hospital. Tents to be set up beneath the nave and in the crypt below. A drastic step, but doctors telling us so much of this virus is shocking.
I just took like a bird's eye view of the ER and saw all the people struggling to breathe and all the monitors with low oxygen. and it just, I broke down and cried. It's been like a bad dream.
Lawrence and Christine Haynes are both emergency room doctors, sending their young son and daughter away so they could tend to the ill.
Just knowing that every day we are hopefully making a difference and, you know, saving lives and showing up and being where we need to be, I think that's enough motivation to get through this hard part and, you know, just look forward to the good times of being with your family again.
And tonight, new numbers in New York reveal 61% of those killed were men. 63% were age 70 or over. 86% had underlying conditions like high blood pressure and diabetes, heart disease, and dementia. All of this as funeral homes in New York are struggling to keep up to lay victims to rest with dignity.
We're trying to make it easier for the families, but again, it's hard. It's a very hard situation right now.
Experts warning the peak in many places is still days away. Michigan running out of PPE, extending their state of emergency into July. Those shortages coming on the heels of a new report from the Health and Human Services Inspector General, revealing more than 300 hospitals were concerned 2 weeks ago about delays in lab results and not having enough staff to run ventilators if they got them. In Louisiana, one parish has seen death rates at more than double the rate of New York City. But now the state is getting more of those critical ventilators.
Just because we think we're starting to flatten the curve doesn't mean our job is over. And in fact, now is the time to double down.
Ventilators are so important for patients like Paul Logan, a 57-year-old athletic director from Indianapolis. The father of 4 is now fighting for his life on a breathing machine. His family asking for prayers, his students rallying around their coach.
We are praying for a speedy recovery, as we know every single Panther is resilient.
No one wanted us to succeed more than you did, and we're really thinking about you and your family. Stay strong.
We're all confident in your ability to fight through. You be in our thoughts and prayers. Get well soon.
And Tom joins us now outside the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. And Tom, you're standing outside of a New York landmark, one of the largest Gothic cathedrals in the world. It is, after all, Holy Week, and it would normally be packed at this time, but now it's been turned into an emergency field hospital. Just describe the scene for us there.
You know, Lindsay, we've seen so many images that we're likely never to forget here in New York City. We first saw the Comfort sail in past Lady Liberty. We saw that field hospital go up in Central Park. And now this Gothic cathedral, as you said, this landmark is going to be a field hospital here in New York City. It is totally bizarre to even think about that. I've been to this cathedral with my family before for concerts, and to now think that patients are going to be saved here and patients may actually die here, it's a very sort of tough thing to swallow and to understand, but it speaks to the severity of the issue. And Lindsay, it still shows us that this fight with COVID-19 is far from over.
Far from over indeed. Tom Yamas, thanks so much for that. And the economic toll of the virus is staggering, as nearly 10 million people filed for unemployment over the past 2 weeks. Take a look at this line of hundreds of people near Miami risking their health to apply for unemployment benefits at a library. The line was already snaking around the block before the library even opened up in the morning. Applicants say that they have had no luck making their claims online or by phone, and many are picking up paperwork for multiple family members. And joining us now to talk more about the situation in hard-hit New York and the federal government's response, New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us, Senator.
Of course.
Let's start right off with Governor Cuomo. Today, he expressed hope that New York is reaching a plateau. Hospitalizations were down yesterday, and as of now, hospitals have enough ventilators. Do you think that the supplies in New York State will be enough, and does the state still need more help?
The state needs a lot more help. We don't know if we are at a plateau yet, and we don't know if we've even reached peak yet. And Governor Cuomo is doing his best every day to make sure we have the ventilators we need to have life-saving care for New Yorkers. I've been talking to hospitals all across the state, and most hospitals have a need for PPE, the personal protective equipment such as masks and gowns, and most don't know if they have enough ventilators for when they reach peak. So the truth is, New York is still in crisis. I've talked to so many people who have lost loved ones, and people are just afraid of the future. So we're trying to create a better supply line for medical equipment. We're trying to urge manufacturers to make the equipment that we desperately need. We're urging people to find ways to clean PPE, and a lot of the hospitals have figured out new technology to do that. We are being resilient and we are being resourceful, but we are no means through the woods.
President Trump removed Glenn Fine, who had been the Inspector General for the coronavirus task force in charge of supervising the stimulus spending. This is just the latest action that the president has taken against an Inspector General. What's your reaction to that removal?
I'm gravely concerned about that removal. President Trump is trying to undermine any level of accountability and oversight over the money Congress just appropriated. The purpose of Mr. Fine was to be the Inspector General to create oversight over the entire $2 trillion package. And he was seen generally by others as responsible and capable and had been the IG for the armed services. So to remove him, to fire him, to replace him with someone who is not seen to be as credible is deeply troubling. This cannot be President Trump's personal slush fund for his buddies and for companies that he likes and states that he likes. Already we are seeing FEMA not actually getting PPE and ventilators to the states that need it. Unfortunately, we've seen FEMA using some criteria that's not based on need. And some states who aren't in urgent crisis like New York are receiving everything they've asked for or more than they've asked for. So I've written a letter directly to President Trump asking for review and oversight now that FEMA has an obligation to get those supplies to the states and communities that need it most, including New York.
And switching gears here, there's also been some serious concern about increased domestic violence with so many people confined to their homes. You fought for resources for domestic violence victims for years. Is there something more that the government could be doing to address this now?
Yes. So in the last bill, we got about $45 million in the bill after advocating for it to give more money to the domestic violence prevention not-for-profits and the places where people can go if they are seeking refuge and shelter. I've talked to a number of the domestic violence shelters in New York today, and they've said that they've seen an increase in cases because the court system is closed. They aren't able to get orders of protection quickly, and they've had to find ways to do that remotely. There's also a shortage in beds available because of the coronavirus epidemic itself. Normally, if you are a single individual, you'll share a room with someone. They can't share a room right now because they're not family members. So they're having to use social services access to hotel rooms to meet demand. So there's a lot of families that when we say stay home, shelter in place, that it's not safe. And so oftentimes they have to reach out for help and they're put in shelters. The shelter system needs more support. And so we need more of the SBA money to be able to flow to not-for-profits and not have the red tape we are seeing with this money we sent to the SBA. We've heard from a lot of people that if they don't have a regular lender who's an SBA lender, they're having difficulty getting the money that we appropriated for small businesses, including not-for-profits.
You've also long been an advocate for paid family leave, and the stimulus bill addressed that. But since then, the Department of Labor issued guidance giving small businesses broad latitude to decline to offer 12 weeks of paid leave. So what should Congress be doing to make sure that that single mom in Buffalo worried about her job is getting the resources that she needs?
So unfortunately, we tried to put paid leave in the second bill, but it ultimately, because of the actions of the administration, only covers about 25% of workers. We believe, those who support this bill, like Congressman DeLauro and I and others, that paid leave should be a right. It should be something that is a social safety net. And there's no better example than COVID-19 as to why we need it. If we had paid leave in place for all American workers, we would have already been able to have the structure whereby they could stay home for up to 3 months to meet the needs of a loved one, a child who's sent home from school, a sick loved one, or themselves being sick. It would have already been in place, and we could have sent money directly to the employers to pay for it. Unfortunately, we don't have paid leave, and our bill only covered 25% of workers. So hopefully it's the first thing we put in the next bill, national paid leave for every worker, along with 2 weeks of sick days.
And we saw some really messy scenes playing out in Wisconsin today. If this virus is still a threat in the fall, would you be in favor of recommending changes to how we vote in November?
Yes, I think we need to guarantee every person can vote by mail, and you could easily do it in every state through an absentee ballot system that is already in existence. And so what we would need to do is allow people to vote by mail early over many days and allow it to mail it in. Those ballots should be postage paid, so that's already paid, and it should be able to be mailed up until Election Day.
And there have been calls for Democratic leadership to demand some kind of provisions for the election in November as part of another stimulus bill. Would you be a part of that?
Very much so. We put some money in the last bill, about $300 million, to begin to allow for vote by mail and other types of remote voting ideas. And unfortunately, the many states are not using those funds to make those changes. In fact, Wisconsin today, the governor wanted to make the election later, but the legislature said no. And unfortunately, that put people's lives and well-being at risk.
Senator Gillibrand, thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you.
The leader of the
Stay
United
safe.
Kingdom is still battling his own personal fight against coronavirus. Prime Minister Boris Johnson is said to be in stable condition, but will stay in intensive care for the second straight night. ABC's Ian Pannell is in London with the very latest on his condition.
Tonight, Boris Johnson remains in intensive care for a second night, and Britain must fight the coronavirus without its leader.
He remains stable overnight. He's receiving standard oxygen treatment and breathing without any assistance.
Hospital staff led global get-well wishes for Britain's Prime Minister, Prince William tweeting that he hopes for a speedy recovery. President Trump saying Americans will pray for him. Johnson's former communications chief, Will Walden, spoke with his friend just last week, telling ABC News Boris is a fighter.
How hard is this personally to have to go through this in such a public manner?
Look, I think it'll be very tough for him, not least because he's a reluctant patient. He doesn't wear illness very well.
Today, the Queen's sending a message of support to Johnson's pregnant fiancée and his family.
And Ian joins us now outside of the hospital where Johnson is right now. Ian, any change in his condition since he went into intensive care?
No, I mean, we had a little more detail. We know that he has received oxygen. We also know that he did not go on a ventilator, that with the help of the oxygen, he was able to breathe perfectly fine. We're also told that he did not have pneumonia. He is still in intensive care tonight, though, obviously being closely monitored. He's said to be alert and in good spirits, which, of course, would be reassuring to many people, not least his pregnant fiancée, Carrie, as well as his siblings and his parents.
Yeah, some good news there. As Johnson recovers, the UK, of course, continues to fight against the virus. Over 6,000 people dead. How is Johnson's replacement handling this crisis?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Britain is obviously a very different system from America. The Prime Minister in Cabinet is first amongst equals. Well, he now has a person who acts as deputy, the Foreign Secretary, who does the same. But of course, in the middle of a crisis like this, many of the big decisions have already been taken. We know what the policy is. And so there is unity amongst the Cabinet. I think there was a sense of profound shock in the nation when the news came through that he was moved into intensive care last night. I think it dawned on so many people that however powerful, however poor you are, that this is a virus that does not respect man, woman or child. And I think it was a salutary moment for many people in the country. I think people will be a little reassured, along with the Cabinet, by the news that's come out here. It will be business as usual. There's no talk of an exit strategy. Perhaps some good news in the figures, even though we had the highest 24-hour death toll here, that perhaps the numbers, the rate of increase is starting to plateau. Of course, we're all desperately clinging to straws, desperately hoping for some good news. But there was a tentative sense from the Chief Scientific Officer that might be where we are right now.
Yes, all of us looking for some bright spots. Let's talk about the rest of Europe. Both Italy and Spain seem to be finally getting things under control, but the crisis in France appears to be getting worse.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, different countries in Europe kind of appeared to peak at different times. We know all about Italy, of course, and then Spain followed fairly rapidly after that, and then Britain and France a little bit after that. It's always difficult to know exactly what the time span difference is. But yes, it certainly appears that Italy, for now, tentatively, of course, appears to be through the worst of it. Spain also perhaps coming through that, although it did have a high death toll today. But France, yeah, is experiencing some terrible times at the moment, some more lockdowns. They've now banned any kind of outdoor activity, anything like jogging, for example, in daylight in a number of key French cities.
and yet other European cities are starting to look at the exit strategy, starting to talk about reopening some kindergartens. So there are some sort of shoots of hope springing up across Europe, even amidst the death and the suffering that's still going on, and the great concern here in Britain. We're all looking to the future, looking to those countries that have been through the worst and trying to sort of read the tea leaves and establish whether or not there is some good news there. Tentatively, no more than that, it does appear that for some countries, perhaps the end is gradually in sight.
Tentatively, we'll take it. Ian, panel, our thanks to you. A hopeful sign tonight out of Wuhan, China, where this pandemic began. Officials there ended the lockdown after 11 weeks of restricting travel in and out of the city. Chinese authorities are now reopening bridges, tunnels, and train stations as traffic returns to the city of 11 million people who will now be monitored by a mandatory smartphone app, but otherwise they're free to leave without special authorization. The city marked the end of its 76-day lockdown with a light show in honor of healthcare workers. And when we come back, he called the Navy captain who stood up for his sailors on board an aircraft carrier too naive or too stupid. Tonight, the acting Navy secretary is acting no more. R. Kelly has asked to be released from jail over COVID-19 fears. The judge's response later in the show. And it was just a mess in Wisconsin today. The lieutenant governor even describing their election with words too profane for us to even repeat. Is this a warning for us all in November? And are there better alternatives? But first, here are some of the trending stories on abcnews.com.
Powerful stories of our time, anytime. Nightline.
Right now, how do you make sense of it all? Now, afternoons on ABC, one place with the good information you need.
We are all in this together, and we're going to get through this together.
Pandemic, what you need to know. Afternoons at 1 Eastern, 12 Central and Pacific on ABC.
Thank you to the doctors, nurses, healthcare professionals,
and first responders.
Thank you to everyone keeping our supermarkets, pharmacies, gas stations running.
Thank you to all the essential workers for all that you do.
We thank you.
We thank you. We thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
For all you do.
And with every challenge, question, concern, we'll be here for you every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Because we will
get through this together.
I thought I had a cold. I didn't think anything of it, and then I got sick. I couldn't even walk. It was terrible. I felt like it was an elephant on my chest. Yeah, I couldn't eat, nothing. And I went to the hospital. My temperature was 103. Oh, yeah, it was serious, all right. I didn't think at the beginning until the doctor says you're positive. And that got me. In the hospital, they said I was a miracle. Maybe I was, but I worked at it. Let me tell you something. I am tough. But you know what? It's positive thinking. That's all it is. Well, I'll tell them, keep on fighting, have that positive attitude, and pray, and get out of bed. Don't stay in bed all the time. Even if you sit in a chair, you have to move a little. And I want to say to them, if I did it, you can do it.
So prayer, positivity, and I'm sure it didn't hurt being feisty. Our best wishes to 90-year-old Anna Fortunato, who, as you just saw, has recovered from COVID-19 and is now out of the hospital. Switching gears, today, acting Navy Secretary Thomas Modly has resigned. His resignation comes after an uproar over his angry tirade against the Navy captain that he fired. The ousted captain had raised concerns about the coronavirus spreading on his aircraft carrier. His sailors cheered for him as he departed. The acting Navy Secretary's apology, though, apparently too little, too late. ABC's Martha Raddatz has more.
Thomas Modly had tried apologizing late last night for mocking the captain he had fired, but the damage had already been done. The crew of the Roosevelt had made no secret of their support for Captain Brett Crozier, but Monday, Modly flew to Guam to tell the crew why he fired their captain. belittling Crozier for the letter he had sent pleading for help for his crew as the coronavirus spread through the ship, a move Moodley called a betrayal in a recording secretly provided to the veteran-focused media outlet Task and Purpose.
If he didn't think that information was going to get out into the public in this information age that we live in, then he was A, too naive or too stupid to be the commanding officer of a ship like this.
That what the bleep you hear at the end is one of the crew listening to Moodley in a separate room. While the Secretary of Defense accepted Moodley's resignation, President Trump a short time ago said he would not have asked for it.
Your secretary probably shouldn't have said quite what he said. He didn't have to resign, but he felt it would be better for the country.
And we're joined now by ABC's Martha Raddatz. And Martha, the Navy brass was clearly unhappy with Moodley's tirade against Captain Crozier, who in some circles is now being revered a hero. But does the Navy still stand by the decision to fire the captain?
Well, actually, Lindsay, it's still under investigation, and that was one of the criticisms. Why did they fire him, relieve him from duty before the investigation was finished? Because it is highly unusual that you would do that unless there's a loss of life or something very, very urgent. So they will continue to look at that. In the meantime, Captain Crozier, who is reportedly tested positive for COVID, I'm told he is doing very well. There are about 230 cases on that ship so far.
And Martha, you've covered the military for a long time. This now fired acting Navy Secretary, as you know, replaced former Navy Secretary Richard Spencer, who was forced out over his handling of a Navy SEAL whose demotion for a war crimes charge did not sit well with the president. Can you recall a time when the Navy bounced from crisis to crisis like this?
This is the worst crisis and at the very least the worst public relations crisis I've seen in the Navy for decades. Probably you want to go back to Tailhook. That was a real crisis for the Navy. But this was just handled so poorly, kind of day after day. And Moodley, Thomas Moodley, to his credit, today did say, "It's my fault. I own it."
Martha Raddatz for us in Washington, D.C. Thanks so much, Martha.
You bet.
And when we return on ABC News Prime, a possible silver lining to this pandemic and a new twist in the investigation of what originally some speculated just might have been the first crime ever committed in space. But first, our tweet of the day from Senator Rand Paul, who's been sidelined with coronavirus.
In times like these, the news-making events happen here. ABC News.
President Trump meeting face-to-face with one of the world's most brutal dictators, Kim Jong-un.
The president.
You trust him?
I do trust him, yeah. I think he trusts me, and I trust him.
Ivanka Trump.
I have to ask you about your emails. Your father had taken Hillary Clinton to task for this.
There just is no equivalency.
So the idea of lock her up doesn't apply to you?
No.
Comey.
How strange is it for you to sit here and compare the president to a mob boss?
Very strange.
Michelle Obama.
What do you wish you could tell your pre-White House self?
Whew. Melania Trump.
Do you think there's still people there that he can't trust?
Yes.
Still working now?
Yes.
Michael Cohen.
So he's still lying?
Yes.
It's a big statement.
And now, in a year with so much on the line, we're right there.
Good evening tonight from Washington, a very busy news night.
America's #1 news source, ABC News, straightforward.
We all need someone who'll pull no punches and give it to us straight. No bull, no spin. Now, imagine getting your news like that. Just give it to me straight. ABC News, straightforward.
What's the most innovative daily news podcast out there to listen to every day? Well, the Edward R. Murrow Awards say it's Start Here, the daily news podcast from ABC News. Even the New York Times calls us a top news podcast worth listening to. Start Here, free on Apple Podcasts.
If there's one silver lining in the COVID-19 pandemic, it's reduced pollution around the world. So let's take a look by the numbers. Los Angeles is usually one of the smoggiest cities in the U.S., but the skies there have been transformed in recent weeks. According to the EPA's Air Quality Index, the L.A. area had 24 days in March with a daily air quality score deemed good. That includes 20 days in a row, the longest stretch of clean air in 40 years when such data was first tracked. Combined with a rainy March, reduced traffic has has played a huge part in reducing pollution in LA and other cities. In San Francisco, traffic was down 40% on the Bay Bridge in the week after California's stay-at-home order went into effect, according to the state's Department of Transportation. Data from Las Vegas also shows about a 33% decline in air pollutants caused by vehicle emissions in late March, and the pollution reduction has been global. India's capital of New Delhi saw a 71% drop in air pollutants in 1 week, according to government data. After that nation's 1.3 billion citizens began a 21-day lockdown last month. NASA satellites detected similar massive drops in pollutants over China in February, although pollution is now returning as the nation reopens, showing much of this reduction will only be temporary. And we still have a lot to report on tonight. Voting during a pandemic. Could what played out in Wisconsin play out everywhere come November? We speak to one state official where they have taken a different approach with their voting. And this is a sign of the crazy times, robots and graduation. We'll be right back.
Seeing right now, this is part of the eye wall.
This procession of migrants goes back 2 miles.
There is going to be catastrophic damage.
This fire has made a run. You can see those flames shooting up into the sky.
We are on the jam-packed red carpet.
To the right, guys.
So this is the 4th weekend of protest.
Watch ABC News on location for Facebook Watch.
What's the most innovative daily news podcast out there to listen to every day? Well, the Edward R. Murrow Awards say it's Start Here, the daily news podcast from ABC News. Even the New York Times calls us a top news podcast worth listening to. So if you like getting behind the biggest news stories of the day, inside all the details, the backstory, and what will happen next, then listen to Start Here, the daily news podcast from ABC News. It's like no other news podcast out there. Even the critics agree. Listen free on Apple Podcasts.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live, the 24/7 streaming news source from ABC News. Breaking news, live events, streaming nonstop. Original breakthrough storytelling from ABC News, National Geographic, ESPN, and it's all designed differently for you to stream straight to any screen whenever you want.
ABC News Live.
Streaming everywhere, right to you. ABC News Live. It's that easy to go there.
The Americans here on the ground and the Iraqis. 18,000 tons. Patatas. Ismail? Yes. David.
Over ground zero from Hurricane Michael.
You can see just home after home.
David,
nice to meet you. This was your view.
My favorite view. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
New York is still the epicenter of the nation's outbreak, but the number of ICU hospitalizations is down for the 3rd straight day. Governor Andrew Cuomo says it represents a possible plateau, but deaths reached their highest level yet in the state, 731 yesterday.
I know it feels like a lifetime. It's been so disruptive, so abrupt, so frightening, so disorienting, but it's only been 37 days, right? Everything in context and everything in perspective.
Cuomo says it's critical that social distancing and stay-at-home orders remain in place.
In neighboring New Jersey, another one-day high. Governor Phil Murphy now closing all state and county parks to help slow the spread.
We have lost another 232 of our precious fellow New Jerseyans. It's almost unfathomable.
Officials say Washington State and Louisiana may have already passed their COVID-19 apex. In the UK, Prime Minister Boris Johnson is said to be stable. He's in the ICU of a London hospital after his coronavirus symptoms worsened.
Members of his administration say he's using oxygen to help breathe, but has not needed to be put on a ventilator.
He's not just the Prime Minister. For all of us in Cabinet, he's not just our boss.
He's also a colleague and he's also our friend, and I'm confident he'll pull through.
In Paris, a symbol of resilience, the Notre Dame Cathedral announcing that it will hold a Good Friday service that will be broadcast on air.
In Wisconsin, voters are turning out in person on this primary day. There are reports of a 3-hour wait at polling places in Green Bay.
Outside of the polling location here in Kenosha, there is a hand-washing station. In the lobby, voters in line are keeping their distance from each other. Inside the voting room itself, poll workers have gloves and masks on. They're working behind a clear plastic makeshift barrier. They can slide papers and other items back and forth with voters through a small opening. Voting machines are spaced out around the room. Many of the voters have brought their own masks and gloves.
I mean, having to come out in the first place wasn't a great idea, but at least the process was as safe as it could be.
ABC News has learned acting Navy Secretary Thomas Modly has offered his resignation. Modly fired Captain Brett Crozier, the former commander of the USS Theodore Roosevelt, who pleaded with the Navy for help with the coronavirus outbreak on the vessel. Modly visited the aircraft carrier Monday in Guam, where he called Crozier naive and stupid.
If he didn't think that information was going to get out into the public, then he was A, too naive or too stupid to be the commanding officer of a ship like this.
The White House press secretary is leaving her position. Stephanie Grisham, who has also been the press secretary to the First Lady, will now assume a new role as chief of staff to Melania Trump.
Welcome back. With much of the nation under stay-at-home orders, the state of Wisconsin still went forward with primary voting today after the governor there failed in his effort to postpone the elections over concerns about the spread of COVID-19. And that produced some rather jarring scenes as Wisconsin residents lined up at polling stations wearing face masks while keeping their distance, all so they could cast their votes. The Republican Assembly Speaker took it a step further, donning full protective gear to work at a polling site, then telling reporters, quote, "It's incredibly safe to go out." So what could today's vote in Wisconsin mean for primary elections going forward and for November's general election? Here's ABC's Mary Bruce.
In Wisconsin today, thousands waiting for hours, forced to choose between protecting their own health and exercising their right to vote. The frustration clear.
I was kind of upset coming out here today. So stay home, be safe, but then they want us to come and do our civic duty.
Wisconsin's Democratic governor tried to postpone the election. The state's top health official issued this warning.
In-person voting would, without question, accelerate the transmission of COVID-19 and increase the number of cases.
But Republican lawmakers argued elections are essential services. The courts agreed they should not be postponed. And today, President Trump urged residents to get out and vote now for a conservative judge on the ballot. But in Milwaukee tonight, there are just 5 polling sites open, a fraction of the usual 180, making the crowds even bigger and the wait even longer.
Mary Bruce joins us now. Mary, there were some local politics at play in this election taking place today, but big picture, what could this mean for how the rest of the primary calendar plays out and for voting in November?
Well, Wisconsin is certainly a big test for how this is going to look, what the campaign is going to look like going forward over these weeks and months as everyone continues to tackle how to run a presidential race in the middle of this health crisis. Now, while Wisconsin held an in-person election, they are the only state so far that has done so. 15 other states have pushed back or postponed or changed somehow their plans. And of course, looking even further down the line, the Democratic convention has already been delayed. We've heard Joe Biden say that we may have to be prepared for some kind of virtual convention. So a lot is up in the air right now. Of course, Wisconsin, though, the only ones to try and continue with an in-person election today.
And Democrats have advocated for expanded vote by mail, but Republicans have resisted that. The president just weighed in on that just a moment ago.
Yeah, the president was asked about this in the White House briefing. He was deeply skeptical of this and without evidence suggested that absentee voting or voting by mail encourages cheating. He said it's, quote, very dangerous. Lindsay, we should, of course, know that the president himself has voted by mail in the past. He is registered to do so again this fall. But you are going to continue to see this fierce debate over the issue of mail-in ballots as you continue to see the election upended by coronavirus.
Mary Bruce for us again tonight. Thanks, Mary. Of course, the coronavirus has changed when many of us vote, and more than a dozen states have postponed their primaries. It's also changed how some of us want to vote. We turn now to Washington State, one of only 5 states in the country that conducts elections entirely by mail. It's a form of social distance democracy that's gaining appeal. Washington's Secretary of State Kim Wyman joins us now. Thank you so much, Secretary Wyman, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So Washington got rid of in-person voting long before the coronavirus struck. Tell us why your state moved to an all-mail-in election and what benefits you've seen.
Well, we evolved over about 15 years to vote by mail, first giving permanent absentee status to voters and then allowing counties to do it individually. But it still took us about 5 years to ramp up to complete vote by mail. And our state's been doing it since 2010. So we're really ready for this COVID-19 attack, if you will.
And what did you see? What did you think seeing images of Wisconsin voters at polls today?
It concerns me that that's what could happen this fall. And, I'm working with my colleagues across the country, and we're all trying to tackle this together because even a vote by mail system is impacted because we need workers to process ballots. So it's going to be a national effort, and every election official I know is thinking of nothing but how do we deal with coronavirus and allow people to vote.
Do you think that every state should move to all mail voting right now?
I think that they are going to have to build in the capacity to deal with high absentee ballot returns. I think that states that have very low numbers, some states have 3 to 5% of their ballots are returned by mail in a normal election before COVID-19 struck. They're going to have the heaviest lift, and it's going to probably have to be a combination of some sort of vote center model and absentee voting. But absolutely, when 16% of our population are over 60 years old, we already have a need for those voters to not have to go into a polling place to vote.
Election experts have found that while voter fraud is rare, it's most common with mail-in ballots. The president is also concerned about fraud, especially when there's no one to check voter ID. So how confident are you that Washington voters are who they say that they are and that you're not allowing fraud?
As with any voting system, you have to build in the compensating controls to instill confidence. So if you're going to send everybody a ballot, you need a measure on the back end like we have here in Washington, where we check every single signature of the voter registration record on file. We do that to make sure people don't vote more than once because we have controls to make sure that we give them credit. And so it's really important to have that balance between access and security. And I can tell you in Washington State, we do not have higher fraud because we vote by mail. In fact, we had more problems in our 2004 governor's race at the polls, the last time we voted at the polls as a state, at polling place voting than we did with vote by mail. So it's about building in the balance.
And that's interesting to note that. And it's also curious, with all mail in voting, are you concerned that some people won't be reached, like Native American communities or people that have P.O. box addresses?
These are communities that we have to be in constant contact with. And here in Washington State, we do try to work with our tribal communities to address those concerns. And we have an advantage because we've done it longer, but it's those underserved communities are ones that you have to focus on, connect with, and find things that are going to make sense for their community to get ballots to voters and give them a chance to put them in drop boxes, for example.
As the coronavirus continues to spread, it certainly seems safer to vote by mail, but the virus can also linger on surfaces, as you mentioned. So do you have plans to protect election workers who handle large volumes of ballots?
That is absolutely where we're going to spend our time focusing in the next few months. County election officers across the state are hoping to get the federal funds that Congress has allocated through the CARES Act, and we're going to try to put those to use right away once our state gets us the matching funds. And we hope to expand our ballot processing centers, our in-person customer service for voter registration and ballot issuance, and really build in those safeguards for our voters and our workers.
And what your state and 4 other states have done really changes the culture around voting. Election Day was traditionally a national civic event, where people would put the stickers on, I voted. In your opinion, do we lose anything when we vote from home over an extended time period?
That is the thing that I miss the most, and it was what made it the hardest decision for me when I was a county election official to move away from poll site voting. But, you know, it's just new traditions now. I think families sit around the table and they have discussions they didn't have before, and you just change what that tradition looks like over that 18-day voting window.
Secretary Wyman, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
In a strange twist to a case made famous possibly as the first crime ever allegedly committed in space, the estranged wife of an astronaut has been charged with falsely claiming she was the victim of identity theft. In August, while the couple was embroiled in a custody dispute, Summer Warden accused her wife, astronaut Ann McClain, of unlawfully accessing her bank account from a NASA computer while aboard the International Space Station. At the time, McClain tweeted, "There's unequivocally no truth to these claims," and now court filings allege that Warden also made false statements to NASA's Inspector General and the Federal Trade Commission. Summer Warden tonight is calling these allegations false. R. Kelly's request for temporary release from a Chicago prison amid the COVID-19 outbreak has been denied by a federal judge. The 53-year-old Grammy Award winner cited his age, existing health issues, and the conditions at the MCC Chicago prison as reasons that he should be released, but the judge ruled that he failed to establish that he was in a defined high-risk category for the virus and that nothing had changed the court's view that he is a flight risk and a danger to the community. The singer faces several charges of sexual misconduct, including sexual assault and sexual exploitation of children. He has pleaded not guilty. According to a Justice Department filing, there have been no confirmed cases of COVID-19 at MCC Chicago. And still ahead on ABC News Prime, leaving your house in these times, they can be scary, but sometimes you just have to do it. Next, the important things that you can do as you return home to minimize risk.
Right now, how do you make sense of it all? Now, afternoons on ABC, one place with the good information you need.
We are all in this together, and we're going to get through this together.
Pandemic, what you need to know. Afternoons at 1 Eastern, 12 Central and Pacific on ABC. Friday nights, 9, 8 Central. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues. The Hunt, True Crime, 2020. Friday nights, 9, 8 Central on ABC.
The world may feel out of your control, but your happiness doesn't have to be. Learn the secrets to happiness. Listen to the 10% Happier podcast, free on Apple Podcasts.
ABC News honored winner of 4 Edward R. Murrow Awards, including the most prestigious honor, Overall Excellence in Television. ABC News, America's #1 news choice.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live, the 24/7 streaming news source from ABC News. Breaking news, live events, streaming nonstop. Original breakthrough storytelling from ABC News, National Geographic, ESPN, and it's all designed differently for you to stream straight to any screen whenever you want.
ABC News Live.
Streaming everywhere, right to you. ABC News Live. It's that easy to go there.
Good morning, sunshine.
Good morning. Good morning. Oh, I'm grateful you woke up this morning.
Good morning, sunshine.
Good morning, sunshine. We've been waiting for you. Say good morning. Good morning, sunshine. In America. Say good morning. Now I want you to wake me up.
ABC News, America's #1 news source. Straightforward news, straight to the heart of the story. ABC News, straightforward.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Level up, 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 level up.
Those are doctors at a hospital in Philadelphia just trying to find a moment of levity as they battle COVID-19 there. They pointed out that they did not waste PPE while filming this video, and they did the dance in an effort to find a fun way to build teamwork. Well, take a look at this. This is certainly a sign of the times in Japan. With graduations canceled, one school got rather creative. The Business Breakthrough University in Tokyo allowed students to attend their commencement ceremony live via robot. One by one, the 4 robots motored up to the stage to accept their diploma. The school limited the ceremony to just 4 graduates, so even the robots could practice proper social distancing. And as we try to stop the spread of coronavirus, we're all rethinking our daily routines and how we disinfect to keep ourselves and our families safe. Well, Becky Worley asked a researcher who studies viruses like COVID-19 how she re-enters her house.
Coming from the outside world back home feels significantly more treacherous these days. So we asked Dr. Angela Rasmussen, a researcher from Columbia University who studies viruses, how she disinfects after a trip, say, to the grocery store.
So here's what I do when I get in the car.
It actually starts here, when she leaves the store.
Take my hand sanitizer, sanitize away.
When she gets home, her immediate routine has a focus.
Before touching my face or touching any other surfaces in the house, is I'm going to wash my hands for 20 seconds with soap and warm water.
She says coats, purses, and fabrics don't need any special treatment.
There has not been any reports of coats or clothing being a significant transmission risk for COVID.
But she does think about her phone.
Phones are potentially a higher risk source of fomite transmission or transmission from surfaces because they're in such close proximity to both your hands and your mouth and nose.
She recommends cleaning phones with disinfectant wipes or alcohol when you get home. But what about changing clothes or washing your hair?
The risk for transmission from your clothing, again, unless you've had direct contact with somebody who might be sick, is pretty low.
Our thanks to Becky for that. And before we go tonight, the image of the day, a family in California with a sweet reminder in these very difficult times. The kids painted signs saying, "Coronavirus pandemic, we are all in this together. It spreads. Wash hands." And then they put it on the roof. That is our show for this hour. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Good night.